My next guest wants to start a national conversation on an issue that he believes is plaguing America today, the erosion of character. General Stanley McChrystal is a retired four-star general of the U.S. Army and a former commander of the U.S. and NATO forces in Afghanistan. He also led the military's premier special forces at the height of the global war on terror. McChrystal has a new book called On Character: Choices That Define a Life. Stan McChrystal, welcome back.
It's great to see you, Fareed. Thanks for having me.
You've written a book about character. You endorsed Kamala Harris. One has to draw from that conclusion that you thought Donald Trump was deficient in character. Explain why.
Yeah. First, I'd say that I've concluded that my character is the most important thing about me. It's the essence of who I am, and I think that's true of everyone. And I think it's the essence of leaders. And so when I think about any leader, whether it's a CEO of a company or leader of a school or president of the United States, to me, the most important aspect is character, because we'll never be able to predict what crises emerge, the unexpected, but we will know whether we can trust that person and their judgment. In the last election, I looked as closely as I could, and we had two people who were relatively known entities. One had been vice president, one had been president. And I made the decision that character was the number one criteria for me. I actually didn't agree with the politics or the policies completely of either side, much more in the center. But I judged that Vice President Harris had better character that I thought I could trust more.
Explain that to people who support President Trump. And I think a lot of them would say, look, we get it. He's not a perfect person. He's imperfect. He's, there are a lot of flaws there, but he is a warrior for our cause. And, if he breaks a lot of stuff and speaks in foul ways, that's okay. But for you, character is deeper than that, right?
It is. And I would not say someone's wrong for supporting President Trump. I can understand, because on many of the issues, he hits things that are important to people. And so that resonates. What I would caution is when things get most difficult, in periods of combat that I had in my years in the service or in other parts of my life, you sort of lay bare what's inside a person. And when I look at President Trump's track record, I find that there is less character than I am comfortable in someone as the President of the United States. I actually think that in those very difficult moments of crisis, I can have much less confidence in the way he will react than I could in the case of Vice President Harris, or potentially someone else.
When you see countries like Canada, Denmark, that have contributed and fought in almost every American war, and you see Washington essentially kind of picking fights with them. Yeah. Do you think it erodes the trust that you need to work for the next war when they need, will they be on board?
Yeah. I've never seen a friend or an ally get better because we criticize them publicly. And if I think how I react when someone criticizes me or the United States publicly, I resent it. I stood on the battlefield with Canadian soldiers, buried them, met families of Canadian fallen. And I think it's wrong of us not to treat them with the respect that they deserve anyway, but they've also earned through common sacrifice with us. So I just think it's not a smart move, and I don't think it's morally the right move either.
You talk in your book about how you worry that looking squarely at the issue of character and talking about it and talking about how you may have leaders at the top who lack that character has been something, in your experience, a lot of people at the higher echelons of society, military leaders, business leaders, don't want to talk about because they worry it'll get them into trouble. What's your message to them?
Yeah, my message to everyone is we've let character erode. We have normalized some behavior that has always occurred to some extent, but now we watch a politician look into a camera or look into people's faces and say something they know is untrue. And we know it's untrue. But we have this strange agreement that we pretend it's okay because they're politicians. And then we see celebrities who act in a way that we'd never want our children or anybody to act, but we still buy their products, invest, we like them on social media. And so what we've allowed is the traditional norms of how people should behave, how we should treat each other, to become much weaker than they used to be. Now, the retort is there's always been people who do things, corruption and philandering and whatever we don't want. But the norms have been stronger than they are now. They've eroded more. And I would argue that it's critical for us to stop and start thinking about it. So I think that's the big challenge in front of us. And that's why I've talked about the need for a national conversation on character. I think we should just put it out there. And some people will be embarrassed to participate in it, and that's probably good.